Our greatest responsibility is to serve our
Treasure Valley communities,
the El Paso, Las Cruces communities,
Eastern Iowa communities,
Mid-Michigan communities.
We are extremely proud of the quality, balanced journalism that CBS 4 News produces.
But we are concerned about trouble and irresponsible, one-sided news stories
plaguing our country.
The sharing of biased and false news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
The sharing of biased and
false news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish fake stories that simply aren't true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think, and this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
Destiny is in our sights. America's heroes are embedded in our hearts. America's future is in our hands. And ladies and gentlemen, the best is yet to come.
Ripple CEO Brett Garlinghouse, he joins us right now. And you know, David, some say Ripple could be the next Bitcoin. What do you think, Brett? Is that a compliment that Ripple could be the next Bitcoin?
Well, I think if we're solving a real problem and it's at scale, then I think it's a compliment. I think the most important thing that is going on in crypto is understanding what is real and what is just hype. Some, I think, may look back on Bitcoin and find that it was the Napster of digital assets. What I mean by that is Napster was the first to digitize music and demonstrate, hey, if you digitize music, you can do a lot of cool things with that. But ultimately, they were circumventing trademark laws, they were circumventing royalty payments, and government stepped in, and Napster was not successful. But Spotify, iTunes, Pandora, they were very successful. I think what you'll find is that maybe the next generation of digital assets ends up solving some of the original problems that Bitcoin set out to solve.
So RippleNet is trying to take on Swift. What's been the traction like? Who's come on board?
Well, it's interesting as you step back and look at this. If you and I decided we were going to send $10,000 to California today, the fastest way for us to do it would be to drive to the airport and fly it there. That's a crazy thing to think about when you're in the age of the internet and we're used to information on demand. When we think about the customers that have come on board, it's because we're solving that real problem. We're changing the nature of a payment taking days to settle to California to seconds. So we now have well over 100 customers ranging from some of the biggest banks in the world to payment providers to the Western Unions and MoneyGrams, Linlin Pay out of China.
How many banks?
It's over 100. I actually don't know the exact number now. Last time we announced it publicly, we said over 100. We'll probably announce the next one when we get to over 200. We're signing up more than a bank a week now.
The thing is, it's not the number of banks, it's the volume
for sure
out there. What kind of volume are you looking at?
Well, we've had one that we could talk publicly about is we have one corridor run by SEB, which is one of the first or second largest bank in Sweden, has done over $1 billion USD equivalent through one corridor. So while on the global macro scale, that we're still just getting started. I think we're on mile 1 of a marathon, but we've crossed that starting line. Like, this is real activity in production systems where customers are really benefiting from that. We clearly have a long way to go, and the overall maturity of the digital asset market, I think, has a long way to go. But if we keep going back to let's focus on a real problem and solve a real problem for real customers, I'm really optimistic.
Currently has over 100 customers globally, and these are mostly banks. XRapid, I think, is the product that's probably the most interesting to people in this audience. It's a way to actually settle institutional payments using XRP, currently targeted primarily at remittances. What it does is it provides the liquidity piece. Now, I think it's important to call out a difference between how we're doing it and how like a traditional blockchain company might do it. A traditional blockchain company might build a remittance app and then try to market it to individuals. They might try to get partners to get cash in and cash out. They would struggle with regulatory issues. Are they going to be a licensed money service business? We're sort of going the opposite way around. We're going to companies that are currently in the remittance business, and we're saying, you have all the partnerships to do remittance, you are licensed remittance businesses, money service businesses, you have cash in locations, you have cash out locations. Why don't you use a digital asset just to provide the liquidity between the two fiat assets? That way you don't have to pre-fund, that way you don't have to settle, it'll be cheaper, it'll be faster, and that's what we built with XRapid. It's an easier sell when you ask a person to do one thing differently than when you ask them to do their entire business differently.
They have launched in November something that is called TIPS, that enables all the banks in the Eurozone to actually transfer instantly at virtually no cost money between them. So I think the role of the disruptors and anything that is using distributed ledger technology, whether you call it crypto, assets, currencies or whatever, and it's far from the bitcoins that we used to talk about a year ago, that is clearly shaking the system. The voice that we heard, which was, I thought, really interesting, were those of the regulators and central bank governors who said, well, yes, this is good and this is helpful and it is changing the business model of commercial banks. But we have to be mindful of two things: trust and stability of the system. And we are equally concerned, we at the IMF, about stability. We don't want innovation that would shake the system so much that we would lose the stability that is needed.
The currency devaluations, I've been complaining about that for a long time. And I believe that we will all eventually, and probably very much sooner than a lot of people understand or think, we will be all at a level playing field. Because that's the only way it's fair. That's the only way that you can fairly compete in trade and other things. And we will be on that field, and we will all be working very hard to do great for our country. But it has to be fair, and we will make it fair.
We can continue to support the growth of trade and how it can be done in the most efficient, fair and global way as possible. And that implies clearly a level playing field, no use of distortive measures, and no protectionist measures going forward.
I think in the race we're in, many countries are just in the process of getting a learner's permit. So for Ripple, we are looking at how do we make sure we can compete on a level playing field. And unfortunately, here in the U.S., we have some parts of the U.S. government that look at cryptocurrencies one way and others look at it another way. Sometimes it's looked at as a currency or a commodity or maybe a security. And depending on how it's looked at, it's regulated very differently.
We're continuing to work on things that you'll be hearing about in the near future, that even today, sitting here right now, you wouldn't believe it's possible, that we have found the answers. You'll be hearing about it, but we have found answers to things that people said would not be possible, certainly not in a very short period of time. But the wonders of the last century will pale in comparison to what today's young innovators will achieve, because they are doing things that nobody thought even feasible to begin. In comparison to what today's young innovators will achieve, because they are doing things that nobody thought even feasible to begin. We continue to embrace technology, not to shun it. When people are free to innovate, millions will live longer, happier, healthier lives.
We will ensure equal justice for citizens of every race, color, religion, and creed. We will defend the dignity of work and the sanctity of life. We will uphold religious liberty, free speech, and the right to keep and bear arms. We will strike down terrorists who threaten our citizens, and we will keep them out of these horrible, horrible situations where they hurt our country, they hurt the people of our country, and we're also going to be staying out of the endless, ridiculous foreign wars in countries that you've never even heard of. We will build the most powerful missile and cyber defense. We've already got it, pretty much. And we will maintain peace through strength. We will end surprise medical billing, require the biggest thing that nobody even knows about, and it's all signed, and it goes into effect on January 1st. You better make sure I win. Can you imagine? This is going to be the biggest thing, and nobody understands what it is. You'll figure it out. Price transparency. Did they fight me on that?
I can't give you any more details on that now, but it would certainly warrant an investigation. If it had been reported to me as a law enforcement officer, I would be investigating it steadfastly.
I know you say you want to do your arguing in court. You are an attorney. You're not a press secretary, but you all did have a press conference last week. Jordan Sekelo said that there's going to be a filing soon in Georgia that would be explosive. Can you tell us anything? Can you make some news with us here tonight? Tell us anything new that you're going to present in that filing in Georgia.
Well, I can't say that yet, but hopefully this week we will get it ready to file.
Sydney,
and it will be biblical.
Biblical.
A free and fair election, at least for the next 30 or 40 years. These people want to destroy us. They're very, very bad people. They're not ordinary Democrats. There are wonderful Democrats in this country. They may disagree with you and me. You know them. Somehow the Democrat Party was hijacked by Clinton, and since then it's gone more corrupt and more corrupt and more
I wish you the
corrupt.
best. All right.
Somebody
deserves the truth.
Cut the head off.
Ladies and gentlemen, focus. XRP is your vehicle to getting out of the rat race, to getting out of the trap. It's your ability to make an impact. Why? Maybe because it's partnered with all these central banks. Maybe because its ecosystem is this vast. Maybe because the small bullet points that you see over here on the left corner, one bubble, equates to even more partnerships. Maybe because it continues to develop. All of the world's problems, all the divisive issues stem back to the central banking system. We are trying to solve a problem, a multi-trillion-dollar problem, left behind by SWIFT. SWIFT is antiquated technology.
There's a plethora of opportunities now You may hate President Trump or love him, but he has changed the financial world forever. Forevermore. Whether you're from Cambodia, England, Netherlands, wherever the hell you're from, he has changed the market forever, ever. They announced a couple of days ago the numbers for unemployment, etc. in the United States. 50, 60-year records. And how have you benefited from the greatest transformation of wealth in the history of mankind so far? How have you benefited? Not a fucking at all. Right, Doc?
This is not an accident.
How long is it going to last? Longer than even for those of you that have some cash in the bank, way past your cash reserves.
Out of 100 people, 4 will get the message.
This thing isn't going to be over in a few weeks. This thing isn't going to be over in a few months.